kind of impossible for a lot of people in American life because like reaction and counter reaction is the only thing you can
Mhm.
do. And also like that, you know, doesn't fully account for like the fucking woman on TikTok who, like, you know, is like, hey, everyone call this kid's principal. Like, what the fuck is that? You know?
Yeah.
But that she is, as much as anyone else is, a victim of the freakification of American life. This is not something that people in any type of good state would be doing.
Continuing on, Solda Sanderson says, Michael, do you think that there are any things in particular you just try not to talk about today? Michael responds, one of the things that I'm sensitive to is diversity. Diversity is when you have people that truly have different ways of thinking, and that's how you solve problems. But you can't talk about it because people don't see it that way. It's all about skin colors, all about sexual orientations, all about these things that the media constantly talks about. It's not about the things that really give us value as individuals. Joe says, there's a lot of things you can't talk about. I was mentioning to someone in my office about the president appointing a Supreme Court nominee. It was an African American woman. And I was saying that's the most racist thing you could do. What if somebody else was good? Yeah, appointing a black woman to the Supreme Court is the most racist thing you can do. I mean, like, I know what he's talking about. He's saying that, like, Joe Biden said, like, immediately off the, like, you know, like, it's going to be a black woman.
Stupid.
But like, I mean,
Classic
like,
Brandon.
Yeah, but at the same time, it's like there are a billion people. There are like, every single man, woman, and child in America is like qualified and constitutionally capable of sitting on the Supreme Court. So I don't really believe in this argument that like, he's like there's 20 more qualified people than this woman. Like, you know,
Right,
if he
but
wants
like
to take that
that's
into
an article of faith in America, though, that like we live in a meritocracy and that high offices should be filled through a meritocratic process. You know, like it might not be true, but that doesn't mean that it's not something that people have like hardwired in as a belief and then get alienated from when they see it disregarded or imagine to see it disregarded.
So Joe continues, what if they were Asian? What if they were anything? And then when you speak to somebody about it, well, what are you? Racist? No, I'm not a racist. Soltis Anderson says, are there any places where you do feel comfortable at home being yourself? Joe said, during the pandemic, we decided to make a WhatsApp group. And the group grew to what it is today of like 35 guys that mostly share the same views. And we just talk to each other all day. And everybody says what's on their mind. We don't hold back. Soltis Anderson says, then let me ask the flip side of this question, which is, are there any spaces where you specifically don't feel comfortable? Any places where you are extra on guard? Joe says, I would definitely say in my office. I don't want to offend anyone. I have 4 kids. I have a living to make. I don't want to deal with any headaches. Danny says, I've had friends that I've known for 20 or 30 years drop me from Facebook over political differences. No matter how well they've known you, they will turn their back on you. Joe says, I wanted to mention one of my closest friends happens to be a liberal, and I'm the total opposite. We're great friends. People don't understand that today, that it's okay to disagree. Michael says, the country, to a great extent, has really lost the ability to have civil discourse and able to learn from different opinions. So Soltis Anderson says, another show of hands questions. How many of you agree with this statement? I feel like a stranger in my own country. All but Derek raise their hands. Danny says, we are the most selfish, self-centered, entitled culture. Everything
Correct. You too, though, motherfucker. You are not excused from that circle.
My brother's a doctor in the emergency room. I hear stories every single night. People just run red lights. And when we were younger, we used to see only one person run a light. Now it's 4 or 5 cars in a row on the same light. They could literally kill a family. They don't care. They're in a hurry. They've got to get to Chick-fil-A. Soltis Anderson says,
when he runs a red light, it's because he had to. You don't understand. Like this is why this is why at the end of the day, everyone will like sign on for a military coup that kills all of their enemies, is because everyone is being incentivized to be the most selfish, awful version of themselves. Like that is a universal thing. But of course, for every individual who is being pushed in that direction, because they've lived their life, they have a narrative that justifies it. But everybody else is just some asshole.
See, I would have been deeply skeptical of this idea that everyone is just running red lights and like, disobeying traffic laws, had we not spent a couple hours driving from Dallas to Houston on this past tour. Because some of the driving we saw there that really was a new level. Like when we were like traffic slowed down, and by slowed down, it was like moving at about 40 miles an hour. We immediately saw 2 cars just off-road it onto the access road.
Yeah,
like
and it was not like real close. There was a fucking like a hill, a grassy hill and a significant decline to this access road that was like 30 yards away, and these cars just immediately peel off and
Just
go and
whipped
ride
out of
over
there,
it.
off-roaded it immediately. Uh, Continuing with this, Soltis Anderson says, let me shift gears and focus a little bit on the things that you value. What are you most proud of these days? What has made you feel a sense of accomplishment? Derek says, I made sure my son graduated from college, was there to support him all the way, do what I had to do to make sure he became a man. Joe says, my children, we take bagels or donuts or whatnot to the local police station nearby because their morale is probably not the greatest, especially in the NYPD.
Oh my goodness.
And we
Oh
always tell
boy.
them, we love you guys. We support you guys. And I always tell my kids, in anything that anybody does, there's always a small amount of bad people that do the wrong things. I suppose that includes the NYPD. But always remember that it doesn't always set the tone for everything, that the police are here to protect us.
It's the most selfish, self-centered scumbag time in America, except for police, who are immune for that.
I like the idea of like the Democrats need to like listen to this focus group particularly to see where Americans are at. Like I love like the idea of like trying to take anything from this fucking nonsense. This like how Pikmin talk, where it's like okay, we listen to the focus group. In response, we are going to make a WhatsApp group for everyone in the country where they can like say the election was stolen or like say like it's racist to like be on the Supreme Court and like no one can get mad at them. We're going to kill half the people that run red lights, but the other who like had to get a burger or under special circumstances, they were
That was an
we have to
emergency
give them
burger.
like yeah, we have to give them love and understanding. Um the paid time off for you and your son to give sort of the hardest bagels ever to some police officers, and then we're gonna have it so that there's no more trolling. We've listened to
Yeah, no
you.
more. Yeah, don't be mean to
I like the
me.
idea of the Democrats reading this focus group and they're like, "Oh man, we're really in a bind with this defund the police, Black Lives Matter thing." Okay, how about this? Like federal tax rebates for whatever local police departments spend on bagels, donuts, for just something to nosh on during the day.
Yeah.
Uh,
Every police department, they're gonna be able to continue like clocking overtime in their sleep, like the Twitch streamers who just stream themselves from the bed. But also they'll have like a weekly donut and bagel day where they get special like community visit overtime.
all right, so Patrick Healy sort of shifts directions and he says, "I want to ask each of you to throw out a word or two on this. What does it mean to be a man?" Robert says, provide for your family. Michael says, compassion. Tony says, being responsible and being a model for your kids. Joe says, I think providing for your family, teaching your children right from wrong, leading by example. Derek says, having integrity. Krupal says, taking care of your family and being respectful to others, regardless of your personal perspective. Robert says, from my religion standpoint, the man is in charge. The responsibility falls upon a man in certain areas. And if something fails, it's the man's responsibility on why it failed, not the woman's. Patrick, I totally disagree with Robert. When things go wrong, it's always women's fault.
True.
Man, you cannot blame us for this. It's these women
Ever.
these days. Yeah, don't ever get mad at a man. That's what matters to me about men.
Yeah, let's make that our politics. No, getting illegal to get mad at men.
Healy asks, is masculinity important to you? Christopher says, yes. You can't observe the natural animal kingdom and see the separation between masculine and feminine, and then all of a sudden think that we as humans are just going to be all one-noted. We're masculine and feminine for a reason. Yeah, I mean, like when I look at hyena society, I think yes, we should be dominated by a strong matriarchal figure with a 6-inch clitoris. Derek, what about you? Derek says, very chill masculinity, not that bravado type of crap. See, Derek's talking some sense in this focus group. Robert says, to me, the stuff that's going on with Ukraine, the United States hasn't filled our role as being masculine as a nation in that aspect. And that's why Putin is doing what he's doing. Because when you don't step up into certain roles, then the stronger person is going to take over. In past times, we've taken a leadership role. And to me, we're not taking a leadership role. So, Putin.
This is just yeah, like this is when you get older and your dick stops working and you blame it on television or something. It's like, I'm sorry, man. The blood flow to that member is no longer operating. You just have to accept it.
And also, when you've aged out of selective service or being able to volunteer for the military, then like, yeah, it becomes incumbent upon the masculinity of the nation to go to war
Yeah.
with Russia, because you're like, well, I'm 56, I'm retired, I'm a retired realtor. Okay, here's a really good one. Soltis Anderson says, who would you all think of as good examples of masculinity or manliness these days? Who's a good example? Okay, and Danny, I gotta say, Danny is my new hero for this answer. Jason Statham.
Hell yeah.
Okay, yeah. Okay.
All right.
Listen, you can't.
Listen up, you can't.
Listen up, you cunts. We used to know the boys from the boys from the gal, boys from the birds. Now, what, they're chopping their tudges off nowadays.
I have three rules. I never look at what I'm transporting. If I do find out that it's a black woman being put on the Supreme Court, I just abandoned the car on the side of the road. And I have a WhatsApp group with 35 guys.
35 exactly bald men.
Who are also transporters.
We talk about whatever we want to talk about. Bub's your uncle. Christopher says Denzel Washington. Robert says, yeah, Denzel Washington. Yeah. Tony says Tom Brady. I love it's like, this is like traditional. It's supposedly like, these are conservative men, conservative values. And when asked, who is your role model for masculinity? Like 3 of them say movie stars.
Yeah. Very, very telling.
And then Tom Brady, like, a professional athlete.
Yeah, just entertainment figures. People on the TV.
Healy says, do you think the definition of masculinity or manliness has changed over your lifetime? Tony says, this country has become more feminized. It's not the way it was when I was growing up. We started off talking about how the country has a weak image. They don't call women the weaker sex for no reason. Men are necessary to maintain a vibrant society, and we've been feminized. No offense. Soltis Anderson says, who, if anyone, do you think views masculinity as a negative these days? Christopher says, I support feminism, but I don't support modern feminism. I think that modern feminism is focused on so-called toxic masculinity, and they are actually purveyors of men bashing. And so I support femininity and feminism, but not to the point where they're trying to hoist themselves above men or trying to make up for the so-called patriarchy. Christopher, spit, church.